The stars twinkled like distant diamonds against the black canvas of space. Ambassador Zilthran of the Vitari adjusted his crystalline form nervously as he waited in the meeting chamber of Neutral Station Alpha. Today marked a historic moment. The first official contact between the Galactic Council of Elder Races and the newly spacefaring humans. For over 3 centuries, the Council had watched Earth from afar. They observed as humans fought their many wars, developed increasingly complex technology, and finally achieved faster-than-light travel in 2157. The Council had debated extensively whether these unpredictable beings were ready to join the galactic community. Some feared humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable. Others saw potential in their adaptability and creativity. Zilthran had studied human behavior for years, preparing for this moment. His translucent body glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed with his anxiety. Beside him stood representatives from 4 other elder races, the insectoid Zith, the gaseous Florians, the reptilian Vex, and the plant-based Yulari. The human ship has docked, announced the station's AI. The delegation will arrive in 3 minutes. Zilthran's glow intensified. Remember, he said to his fellow ambassadors, humans rely heavily on facial expressions and body language. They may find our appearances disturbing. We must remain calm and welcoming. The large metal doors at the end of the chamber slid open, with a soft hiss. 5 humans entered, dressed in crisp blue and white uniforms. Leading them was a female with short brown hair who walked with confident steps. But what made every alien ambassador freeze was not the humans. It was the creature walking beside the lead human. 4-legged, covered in thick gray and white fur, with a long snout, alert ears, and visible teeth when it briefly opened its mouth. Zilthran's research immediately identified it. A wolf, or something very similar, one of Earth's most efficient predators. The Vex representative hissed softly, backing away. The Florian's gaseous forms swirled in distress. Even Zilthran, who prided himself on his composure, felt his crystalline structure vibrate with alarm. The human woman stopped, noticing their reaction. She smiled, a gesture Zilthran recognized as meant to be friendly, though it exposed her own predatory teeth. Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council. I am Lieutenant Kate Miller of Earth's United Space Command. We come in peace and friendship. Zilthran forced himself to step forward, though his attention remained fixed on the 4-legged predator that stood calmly beside her. Lieutenant Miller, we welcome you, but I must ask, why have you brought a dangerous predator to this diplomatic meeting? Kate looked confused for a moment, then glanced down at the animal. Her face changed to show understanding, another human expression Zilthran had studied. Oh, you mean Rusty? He's not dangerous, he's my service dog. He helps me manage my anxiety during important events like this. The council representatives exchanged alarmed glances. Service? This human referred to one of Earth's apex predators as providing service? The implications were deeply disturbing. The furry predator, this dog, sat down next to Kate, its tongue hanging out of its mouth in what seemed like a relaxed manner. It made no aggressive moves, yet every alien in the room knew what those teeth and claws were evolved to do. Your service dog? Asked Zilthran carefully. You control this predator? Kate laughed gently. I don't control him. We're partners. Rusty is perfectly trained and very friendly. Dogs have lived alongside humans for thousands of years. He's as much a part of our delegation as any of us. The Yulari representative's leaves trembled. You bring predators into your homes? Willingly? Of course, replied another human, a male with light skin and blonde hair. Most Earth families have at least one pet. Dogs, cats, birds, fish. They're our companions. Zilthran's mind raced to process this information. These humans hadn't just achieved space travel. They had somehow tamed wild predators to the point of bringing them into diplomatic meetings. They spoke of dangerous creatures as friendly and companions. What kind of species had the Council just invited into the galactic community? Perhaps, Zilthran said slowly, We should begin our discussions with you, explaining more about your relationship with Earth's other species. Kate nodded, completely unaware of how profoundly she had just changed the course of galactic history. 3 days after the first meeting, the Council gathered in emergency session. The revelation that humans casually kept predators as pets had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Some feared humans were training biological weapons. Others wondered if humans possessed unknown powers of mind control. "We need more information," Council Elder Drax insisted. "We must send an observer to Earth." The Council selected Thelnak, a respected xenobiologist, for this critical mission. A member of the six-limbed Morith species, Thelnak was known for his calm approach to new situations. 2 Earth weeks later, Thelnak's ship entered Earth orbit. He was greeted by his assigned human liaison, Dr. Greg Dawson, a biologist specializing in interspecies relations. "I understand you want to learn about our relationship with animals," Greg said as they traveled in a ground vehicle toward Chicago. "I thought we'd start at a dog park." Thelnak had studied Earth's predators extensively before his arrival. He knew about wolves, bears, lions, and other dangerous creatures. But nothing prepared him for what he saw when they arrived at the fenced area Greg called a dog park. Dozens of predators ran freely. Some chased small thrown objects. Others played with each other, mock fighting with teeth and claws that could easily tear flesh. Most alarming were the small human offspring allowed to interact with these beasts. "This is extremely dangerous," Thelnak said, his voice translator barely hiding his alarm. "Why are children permitted near these predators?" Greg looked surprised. "Dangerous? These are family pets. They're domesticated." A large golden-furred creature bounded up to them, its tongue hanging out and tail moving rapidly from side to side. "This is Max," Greg said, rubbing the animal's head. "He's a golden retriever, one of the friendliest dog breeds." Thelnak stepped back, his scientific equipment revealing the animal's biological reality. "This golden retriever shares 99% of its DNA with wolves. It has the teeth and claws of a predator." "Yes, but he wouldn't hurt a fly," Greg replied. "Unless you count the stuffed toys he demolishes. Dogs have lived alongside humans for at least 15,000 years. They're not wild animals anymore." Thelnak watched in disbelief as a small human child threw a ball, and 3 dogs chased after it, competing playfully. There was no aggression toward the child, only what appeared to be joy. "How is this possible?" Thelnak asked. "How do you control them?" Greg shook his head. "We don't control them, not really. We've bred them over thousands of years to enhance certain traits: friendliness, loyalty, playfulness. They choose to be with us." Over the next week, Thelnak visited many human homes. He saw cats sleeping on laps, dogs guarding houses, birds singing in cages, and fish swimming in glass containers. He observed humans feeding, grooming, and playing with creatures that on any other world would be considered dangerous or at least kept at a safe distance. In one home, he watched as a woman named Karen Scott treated her cat's minor injury with gentle care, speaking softly to the animal while it purred loudly. "Why do you do this?" Thelnak asked. "What benefit do you receive from these animals?" Karen looked surprised by the question. "Love," she said simply. "Companionship, joy. Sam here has been with me through some of the hardest times in my life. Pets are family." Thelnak recorded everything, with scientific precision, but his reports back to the Council contained an emotion unusual for his species: wonder. "Humans have somehow altered the behavior of apex predators to serve them," he wrote. "They call this domestication and claim it's been practiced for thousands of years, but it's more complex than mere servitude. These creatures appear to form emotional bonds with humans, and humans with them." The Council was deeply troubled by Thelnak's findings. A species that could bend the will of predators was unprecedented in galactic history. "Continue your research," the Council instructed. "We need to know if this human ability represents a threat." But as Thelnak watched a search and rescue dog named Buddy locate a volunteer hidden under rubble during a demonstration, he began to wonder if the Council was asking the wrong question. Perhaps what humans had achieved with their animal companions wasn't something to fear, but something the galaxy could learn from. He made a note to himself. Humans don't see themselves as masters of these animals, but as friends. This distinction may be crucial to understanding their species. The Galactic Council received Thelnak's reports with growing concern. The idea that humans lived alongside predators was disturbing enough, but the claim that this practice had been happening for thousands of years required verification. "We need historical proof," said Elder Drax during the emergency session. "These humans might be exaggerating their abilities." The Council assigned Vereen to investigate. As the head archivist of the Council's vast knowledge banks, the slender, blue-skinned historian had access to Earth's historical databases. She was known for her attention to detail and refusal to jump to conclusions. Vereen started her research by examining ancient Earth artifacts. She studied cave paintings showing humans hunting alongside wolves. She analyzed Egyptian tomb paintings, depicting cats as household companions. She pored over images of ancient nobles with hunting birds perched on their arms. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans had not just tamed predators recently, they had been doing so for longer than most. Elder races had been spacefaring. "It is confirmed," Vereen told the Council during her presentation. "Humans began domesticating wolves approximately 30,000 years ago. These wolves gradually evolved into what Earth calls dogs through selective breeding." The Council chamber filled with murmurs. 30,000 years was an impressive time span for such a project. "What about other species?" asked a Florian representative, its gaseous form swirling with anxiety. "Cats were domesticated approximately 10,000 years ago," Vereen continued. "Horses 6,000 years ago. Birds of prey have been trained by humans for at least 4,000 years. There is even evidence of bears and big cats kept as companions by ancient rulers." She displayed images on the chamber's main screen, ancient statues of cats being worshipped, paintings of kings with lions at their feet, and sculptures of eagles landing on human arms. "How is this possible?" asked Zilthran. "No other known species has achieved this level of control over predators." Vereen's blue skin darkened slightly, her species' way of showing emphasis. "That is the most fascinating part. It appears humans did not simply control these animals. According to my research, they changed them." The chamber went silent. "Changed them?" Elder Drax finally asked. "Yes," Vereen confirmed. "Through a process humans call selective breeding. They encouraged certain traits and discouraged others over many generations. They transformed fierce wolves into loyal companions. They shaped these animals not just physically but behaviorally." She displayed images of modern dogs, tiny chihuahuas, massive Great Danes, fluffy Pomeranians, all descended from wolves. "These creatures now produce hormones that bond them to humans," Vereen explained. "The relationship is biochemical. The animals feel actual affection for humans and vice versa. They are not slaves or servants. Humans call them pets and consider them family members." The Council representatives looked at each other in shock. A species that could reshape other species was potentially very dangerous, or remarkably advanced. "Is there evidence that humans might use this ability for warfare?" asked the Vex representative, whose reptilian ancestors had evolved from predators themselves. "Historical records show some military applications," Vereen admitted. "Dogs in warfare, carrier pigeons for communication, horses in battle. But the vast majority of these relationships appear peaceful and mutually beneficial." She showed final images: a blind human walking with a guide dog, an elderly woman receiving comfort from a cat, a child sleeping peacefully beside a large dog. "My conclusion," Vereen stated firmly, "is that this human trait represents something new in our understanding of species development. They don't just tame predators, they form emotional bonds with them. This suggests humans might possess greater capacity for cross-species empathy than any other known race." Elder Drax's expression was troubled. If humans can form bonds with predatory species, what might they accomplish with other intelligent species? With us? The question hung in the air, both hopeful and concerning. "I recommend direct observation," Vereen suggested. "We need to understand this human trait more deeply before we decide whether it represents a threat or an opportunity. Agreed, said Elder Drax after a moment's thought. The Council will send a formal delegation to Earth. We must see these human-animal relationships firsthand. As the Council members filed out, Vereen reviewed her notes once more. In all her centuries studying alien cultures, she had never encountered anything like humans and their pets. She found herself genuinely curious about what the delegation would discover. 2 weeks after Vereen's presentation, a formal delegation of 5 Council representatives arrived on Earth. They landed at the New York spaceport and were escorted to the United Nations headquarters where human leaders waited to meet them. Ambassador Zilthran led the group, his crystalline form glowing with nervous energy. The delegation included Elder Drax, researcher Thelnak, historian Vereen, and a Vex diplomat named Sisk. Each had been carefully briefed on human customs, but nothing could prepare them for what they encountered. They arrived at the United Nations, on what humans called Take Your Pet to Work Day. When the large doors opened to the main conference room, the alien delegation froze at the entrance. Around the long oval table sat human diplomats from around the world, and with them were numerous animals. Dogs of various sizes sat or lay by their owners' feet. Several cats perched on laps or windowsills. One woman even had a colorful bird on her shoulder. "Welcome to Earth," said Secretary General Melissa Wright, rising from her seat. In her arms was a large, fluffy animal with pointed ears and a bushy tail. "I understand you have concerns about our animal companions. We hope to address your questions today." Zilthran stared at the creature in her arms. "Is that a predator you're holding?" he asked cautiously. Melissa smiled. "This is Oscar, my Maine Coon cat. And yes, cats are carnivores, but Oscar is perfectly gentle. Would you like to see?" Before any of the aliens could respond, she gently placed Oscar on the large conference table. The enormous cat stretched, yawned, showing sharp teeth, and then calmly walked across the polished surface toward the aliens. The Vex representative Sisk hissed and backed away. Even Elder Drax looked uncomfortable. Only Thelnak, who had spent time on Earth already, remained calm. Oscar stopped in front of them, sat down, and began to clean his paw with his tongue. "He won't hurt you," Melissa assured them. "Cats are curious, but this one is very well behaved." "How can you be certain it won't suddenly attack?" Zilthran asked, watching Oscar's every move. "The same way I know you won't," Melissa replied with a smile. "Trust built through relationship." The delegation took their seats, keeping wary eyes on the various animals in the room. A golden retriever put its head on its owner's lap, looking up with what seemed like affection. A small white dog slept peacefully in a woman's handbag. A black cat jumped onto a windowsill and watched the proceedings with apparent disinterest. "We have reviewed your history with these creatures, Elder," Drax said formally. "What we don't understand is why you continue this practice. Surely with your level of technology, you no longer need predators for hunting or protection." A human diplomat named Paul Carter smiled and patted the head of his brown dog. "We don't keep them because we need them for survival anymore. We keep them because they enrich our lives. They provide companionship, emotional support, and unconditional love." "Love?" Sizik asked, the translator struggling with the concept. "You claim these animals feel complex emotions toward you?" "Absolutely," said another human, stroking her cat. "Anyone who's ever had a pet knows they feel affection, loyalty, even jealousy sometimes." As if to demonstrate, Oscar finished cleaning himself and walked back to Melissa. He jumped into her lap and began to purr loudly as she stroked his fur. The sound made Zilthran's crystalline form vibrate slightly. "Is it making a threat display?" he asked. "No," Melissa laughed gently. "That's purring. It means he's happy and content." Throughout the meeting, the alien delegation watched the interactions between humans and their pets with fascination and confusion. They observed how the animals seemed to understand certain words and gestures. They noted how the humans spoke to the animals as if they were intelligent beings. Most surprising was how calm and peaceful the predators remained in a room full of potential prey. The cats showed no interest in hunting the bird. The large dogs didn't threaten the smaller ones. "They are not just tamed, Vereen whispered to Elder Drax. "They are fundamentally changed." By the end of the meeting, Oscar had fallen asleep on Melissa's lap. As the Secretary General spoke about trade agreements and diplomatic relations, she absent-mindedly stroked the predator's fur, and it nuzzled against her neck, completely content. The image of a dangerous predator sleeping peacefully on a human's lap, while important matters were discussed, was one the Council representatives would not soon forget. Following the meeting at the United Nations, the Galactic Council decided more scientific study was needed. They assembled a team of their best scientists to conduct detailed research on the human-animal bond. Lead researcher Ixora, a purple-skinned Lumari with 4 arms and enhanced sensory organs, was chosen to head the project. Ixora set up a research center in a small town called Riverside. Here, her team invited local families and their pets to participate in various tests and observations. They used advanced technology to measure brain activity, hormone levels, and behavioral responses in both humans and animals. On the 3rd day of testing, Ixora made an unexpected discovery. She called an emergency meeting with the delegation. "You must see this data," she said, her voice excited as she displayed holographic brain scans. When humans interact with their pets, both species show similar patterns of brain activity. There are elevated levels of oxytocin in both the human and animal. "What is oxytocin?" asked Elder Drax. "It's what humans call the bonding hormone," Ixora explained. "It's released during positive social interactions. It creates feelings of trust and connection. We've observed it before in parent-child relationships across many species." Zilthron studied the floating images with interest. "Are you suggesting these predators view humans as family?" "And humans view them the same way," Ixora confirmed. "It's not control or domination as we feared. It's a mutual relationship. These animals have co-evolved with humans. They're not servants or slaves. They're partners." To demonstrate her findings, Ixora invited the delegation to observe a session with 8-year-old Emma Barnes and her dog Buddy, a medium-sized mixed breed with floppy ears and a wagging tail. The aliens watched from behind a viewing screen as Emma and Buddy played together. In a room filled with toys, the girl threw a ball and Buddy chased it. When Emma pretended to cry, Buddy immediately came to her side, licking her face until she laughed. When Emma sat quietly reading a book, Buddy lay beside her, head resting on her leg. "The dog is protective of the child," noted Thelnak. "Yet it shows no aggression unless the child is threatened." During one test, a researcher entered the room wearing a mask and making threatening moves. Buddy immediately placed himself between the stranger and Emma, barking loudly until the researcher backed away. Once the threat was gone, Buddy returned to being a playful companion. "This is beyond mere domestication," Ixora explained. "These animals can read human emotions. They respond to subtle cues in body language and tone of voice. Some can even understand hundreds of human words." "And the humans?" asked Vereen. "What do they gain from this relationship?" "Reduced stress levels, lower blood pressure, emotional support, increased feelings of security and well-being," Ixora listed. "We've measured significant health benefits in humans who live with these animals." Later that week, the delegation visited a facility where animals helped humans with special needs. They watched as therapy dogs comforted sick children in a hospital. They observed a service dog helping a man in a wheelchair open doors and retrieve fallen items. They saw a specially trained cat that could detect when its owner was about to have a seizure and warn them in advance. "The partnership goes beyond emotional bonds," Ixora explained. "These animals are helping humans overcome physical limitations." The council representatives were particularly moved by the story of Ben Howard, a veteran who suffered from post-traumatic stress. His service dog, a gentle black Labrador named Shadow, could sense when Ben was about to have a panic attack and would apply pressure to his body, helping calm him. "Before Shadow, I barely left my house," Ben told them. "Now I can live a normal life again." Elder Drax, who had initially advocated for quarantining Earth, watched Ben and Shadow together. The man stroked the dog's head with obvious affection, and the animal leaned against his leg supportively. "Any species that can turn killers into healers might understand cooperation better than we do." Drax admitted quietly. That evening, the delegation sent a new report to the Galactic Council. The conclusion was unexpected. Humans and their animal companions might offer the galaxy new insights about interspecies relationships that could benefit all. We recommend further study, they wrote, not from fear but from a desire to learn. After receiving the latest reports, the Galactic Council made an unusual decision. They proposed an exchange program where several brave alien diplomats would live with human families to observe human-animal relationships firsthand. This approach was unprecedented in galactic diplomacy, but the Council believed close observation was necessary to fully understand this unique human trait. Counselor Yetra, a plant-based life form from the Yulari species, was among the volunteers. Her slender green form and leafy appendages made her look delicate, though her species was quite resilient. She was assigned to stay with the Jones family in suburban Denver, Colorado. Yetra's anxiety grew when she learned they had 2 dogs, a German Shepherd named Duke and a Labrador mix named Coco. She had studied Earth predators extensively during her preparation, but still felt nervous about living under the same roof with them. The Jones family consisted of Alan and Susan Jones, and their 7-year-old daughter Lily. They welcomed Yetra warmly to their home, but Duke immediately began barking at the alien visitor. "He just needs time to get used to you," Alan explained, holding the large dog by its collar. "He's protective of the family." Yetra's leaves trembled slightly. "Is there danger he might attack me?" Susan shook her head. "Duke is very well trained. He's just uncertain about you because you smell different. Give him a few days." On her first night, Yetra stayed in her room with the door firmly closed. She could hear the dogs moving around the house and wondered if it was safe to sleep. In her species, predators were to be avoided at all costs, not invited into one's home. By the 3rd day, Duke had stopped barking at Yetra, though he watched her constantly. The smaller dog, Coco, seemed more curious than suspicious, often following Yetra around the house with what seemed like interest. "You can try giving them treats," suggested Lily, offering Yetra some small bone-shaped biscuits. "That's how you make friends with dogs." Hesitantly, Yetra extended a leafy appendage with the treat. Coco approached cautiously, sniffed, then gently took the biscuit from her. Duke still refused to come close. Over the next few days, Yetra observed the family's interaction with their pets. She saw how the dogs responded to commands, how they greeted family members with enthusiasm when they returned home, and how they seemed to understand certain words and routines. Most surprising was the night when Lily had a nightmare. Yetra was awakened by sounds of distress and carefully opened her door to investigate. She found Lily sitting up in bed, crying from a bad dream. Before either parent arrived, Coco had already jumped onto the bed and was pressed against the girl, licking her tears. The child hugged the dog tightly and her crying subsided. "She makes the monsters go away," Lily explained the next morning when Yetra asked about it. On the 10th day of Yetra's stay, an unexpected incident occurred. A human tried to enter the back door of the house when everyone was watching a movie. Before the family even realized what was happening, Duke ran to the door barking loudly and aggressively, a completely different animal from the one Yetra had been observing. The would-be intruder quickly fled. Alan called the local authorities, and they came to take a report. "If it weren't for Duke, they might have gotten in while we were distracted," Susan said, patting the dog's head. "Good boy, Duke, good boy." Yetra watched as the previously intimidating predator wagged its tail and leaned into Susan's touch, clearly pleased by the praise. "He protected all of us," Alan pointed out. "Including you, Yetra." The realization was startling. The predator, that had made her so nervous, had been standing guard over her safety. Yetra's perception began to shift. By the 4th week, something remarkable happened. Duke brought one of his toys, a rope with knots on both ends, and dropped it at Yetra's feet. He backed up, body lowered, looking at her expectantly. "He wants to play tug with you," Lily explained excitedly. "That means he likes you now." Cautiously, Yetra picked up one end of the rope. Duke gently gripped the other end and pulled, careful not to use his full strength. They engaged in a simple game that seemed to delight the animal, That evening, Yetra sent a message to the council that included an unexpected personal note. I believe I now understand what humans call friendship with another species. These animals are not just tamed. They have formed a social bond with humans that includes protection, affection, and mutual enjoyment. They have, in essence, adopted humans as part of their pack, and humans have accepted them as family members. What had begun as a frightening assignment had become a profound lesson in interspecies connection. Just as relations between humans and the Galactic Council were improving, a serious problem arose. The Council arranged a major diplomatic function aboard the space station Unity to celebrate 6 months of successful contact. Representatives from 12 alien civilizations would attend, including the reptilian Vex Imperium, who had remained skeptical of humans. Ambassador Peter Harris was chosen to lead the human delegation. As someone who suffered from anxiety in high-stress situations, Peter relied on his emotional support animal, a white cat named Whiskers. After checking the station's regulations and confirming there were no restrictions, Peter brought Whiskers with him to the event. The reception began smoothly. Most alien representatives had now heard about human pets and were curious, if still cautious. Some even approached to observe Whiskers, who remained calm in Peter's arms despite the strange surroundings and unusual beings. She helps me stay calm during important meetings, Peter explained to a group of fascinated Morith diplomats. Petting her lowers my blood pressure and helps me focus. The trouble started when Security Officer Kresk of the Vex Imperium approached. The tall, scaled reptilian leaned forward to examine the cat more closely. Whiskers, alarmed by the sudden movement of a creature that resembled a predator from her perspective, hissed softly. Kresk jumped back, but moments later began showing signs of distress. Red spots appeared on his scales. His breathing became labored. He collapsed to the floor as his fellow Vex rushed to his side. "Medical emergency," someone shouted. The station's medical team quickly determined that Kresk was having a severe allergic reaction. They treated him immediately, and he recovered, but the damage was done. The Vex diplomats were furious. This was an assassination attempt, the Vex ambassador declared. Humans brought a biological weapon to a peaceful gathering. The reception ended in chaos. The Vex demanded that all Earth animals be banned from diplomatic functions and threatened to withdraw from the Galactic Council if their demands weren't met. Other species, uncertain what to believe, looked to the Council for guidance. The Council called an emergency session the following day. The atmosphere was tense as representatives from all species gathered to discuss the incident. "These humans cannot be trusted," the Vex ambassador hissed, his scales still showing agitation. "They bring killers into our midst and call them pets. Yesterday proves they are weapons." Ambassador Harris stood to address the Council. His hands trembled slightly, and he clearly wished for the comfort of Whiskers, who had been confined to his quarters. "On behalf of humanity, I apologize for the unfortunate incident," he began. "We had no knowledge that Officer Kresk would have an allergic reaction to cat dander. Whiskers is a 10-pound cat who spends most of her day sleeping. She is not a weapon. She is my companion who helps with my anxiety." The reaction was completely unintended. The Vex representative remained unconvinced. "Your pet caused harm to one of our people. How many more incidents must occur before the Council recognizes the danger?" The debate grew heated. Some species sided with the Vex while others defended the humans. The issue threatened to create a permanent divide in the newly formed galactic community. Then Counselor Yetra, who had completed her stay with the human family, asked to speak. The plant-based diplomat's opinion carried weight after her direct experience living among humans and their animals. "When I first arrived on Earth, I too feared their predator companions," she admitted. "The German Shepherd in my host family frightened me greatly, but over time I witnessed something remarkable." She described how the dog had protected the family from an intruder, how it had comforted a child after a nightmare, and how it had eventually accepted Yetra herself as someone to protect. "I once feared these creatures as you do," she said, addressing the Vex delegation directly. "But I've learned that the human capacity to form bonds with other species isn't a threat. It's potentially their greatest gift to the galaxy." Her words created a thoughtful silence in the chamber. Even the Vex seemed to consider her perspective. I propose a compromise, Yetra continued. Humans will provide advance notice of any animal companions at diplomatic functions, and special accommodations will be made for species with allergies or cultural aversions. The council remained deadlocked on how to proceed. The incident had revealed how deeply different human practices were from galactic norms, and how easily misunderstandings could arise. What some species saw as a charming quirk, others viewed as a dangerous liability. As the debate continued into the night, Ambassador Harris worried that one small cat might have undone months of careful diplomacy. After 3 days of tense negotiations, the Galactic Council finally reached a compromise. Human delegates would provide advance notice of any animal companions, and special accommodations would be made for species with allergies or cultural objections. The Vex reluctantly agreed to these terms, though they maintained a cautious distance from human representatives. What no one expected was how the incident would spark curiosity across the galaxy. News of human pets spread rapidly through various civilizations. The very idea that a species would form emotional bonds with potential predators fascinated many. Videos of cats playing, dogs performing tricks, and birds mimicking human speech became popular viewing among alien species. 6 months after the diplomatic crisis, the Galactic Council held a special ceremony on Earth to mark the first anniversary of First Contact. The event took place in a large open field near the original landing site. Representatives from 23 species attended, including a small delegation from the still wary Vex Imperium. The highlight of the ceremony was a demonstration by human Jason Clark and his border collie, Luna. Jason worked in search and rescue, and Luna was his partner in finding people lost in disasters or wilderness areas. The gathered aliens watched in amazement as Luna followed complex commands, using her sense of smell to locate hidden volunteers. When she found someone, she returned to Jason, led him back to the person, and gently tugged them to safety. Luna can detect a human scent under rubble, snow, or water, Jason explained to the audience. She's helped save 43 lives in her career. For the final demonstration, a young alien child from the Florian species was asked to hide. The child's gaseous form made them difficult to see among the trees at the edge of the field. Luna circled the area, nose to the ground, then darted into the woods. Moments later, she returned and led Jason directly to where the child was hiding. The Florian child was not in any danger, but Luna gently took the edge of their protective suit in her mouth and carefully led them back to their parents. The gentleness with which the predator handled the alien child made a powerful impression on all who watched. Even the Vex representatives seemed affected by the display. One was overheard saying, "Perhaps there is more to these creatures than we understood." After the demonstration, Ambassador Zilthron, who had once recoiled at the sight of a dog, approached Jason and Luna. The crystalline being knelt down, his form shimmering in the sunlight, and cautiously extended a hand toward the border collie. "May I?" he asked Jason. "Sure. Luna is very friendly. Just let her sniff your hand first, so she knows you're okay." Luna sniffed the ambassador's crystalline appendage, then pushed her head against it, inviting him to pet her. Zilthron cautiously stroked her fur. "It's softer than I imagined," he admitted, a tone of wonder in his voice. "Most people are surprised by that the first time," Jason said with a smile. As Zilthron petted Luna, he spoke thoughtfully. "Perhaps we have as much to learn from your four-legged friends as we do from you. They have managed to cross the species barrier in a way that we, with all our advanced technology, have never achieved." From the observatory deck overlooking the field, Counselor Yetra watched the interaction with satisfaction. Her time with the Jones family and their dogs had changed her view of humans and their companion animals. What had once seemed frightening now represented something hopeful. Elder Drax joined her at the railing. "It seems your experience on Earth has made you an advocate for humans," he noted. "Not just for humans," Yetra replied, "for the possibility of deeper connections between different species." These humans and their animals show us something we hadn't considered possible. In the year since first contact, hundreds of studies had been launched on human-animal bonds. Some alien scientists had even begun cautious interaction programs with Earth animals under human supervision. A few brave diplomats had accepted gifts of small fish tanks or caged birds to observe these relationships themselves. The moment when elder races discovered humans had tamed apex predators as household pets had initially been one of fear and misunderstanding. Now it had become a moment that opened new possibilities for the entire galaxy. As the ceremony concluded, a small Vatari child approached a therapy dog that was part of the Earth delegation. Under careful supervision, the child touched the dog's fur with wonder in its crystalline eyes. "The children will lead the way," Yetra observed. "They don't share our preconceptions." Across the field, species that had evolved on different worlds under different suns were finding common ground in their fascination with Earth's unique approach to interspecies relationships. It wasn't diplomatic agreements or trade deals bringing them together today, but the simple joy of watching a human play fetch with a dog. "Perhaps," Drax said quietly, "this is the beginning of something new for all of us."